Okay, let's unpack this because, wow, forget what you think you know about World War II movies.
Hmm.
Seriously. Imagine a film set in that era that makes you laugh, then cringe, then feel,
Wow.
well, pretty uncomfortable realizing who you might be rooting for.
Yeah, it definitely plays with expectations. It doesn't just tell a story in history, it kind of blows it up, reinvents it.
Exactly. And it uses this mix of really sharp dialogue, unexpected humor, and some pretty brutal violence to question the whole idea of a hero.
Right, it challenges those neat categories we sometimes put things into.
So our mission for this deep dive is basically to figure out how it does that. How does this film use its unique style?
You mean like the chapters and the dialogue?
Yeah, that and the genre blending, the
Yeah.
stylized violence,
Hmm.
how it uses all that to critique other war movies, maybe, and take down that myth of the perfect American hero.
And also how it shows how easily anyone really can get swept up by what they see on screen, how propaganda works, even when you think you're watching the good guys.
Right. So let's start with that style. It's really distinct. It's not just one long story. It's broken up, isn't it, into chapters.
Yeah, like a novel, which immediately sets it apart from your typical war epic that flows chronologically from A to B.
And despite, maybe some of the marketing, it's not wall-to-wall action. It leans heavily on dialogue.
Oh, definitely. It's been called a talkie for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
There are these incredibly long, tense scenes, just people talking.
Often not even in English.
Right, which adds to the tension, the authenticity, but also demands more from the viewer. You have to engage differently.
And it borrows from other genres too, right? Like the spaghetti western feel.
Totally. You see it in the standoffs, the character introductions, even some of the music cues. That specific kind of cool, stylized intensity.
And the violence. It's not just there. It feels very deliberate, very stylized, sometimes almost cartoonish, but then suddenly very real and brutal.
And that's where it gets really interesting, isn't it? That stylized approach, especially the violence, builds this core idea, blurring the line between hero and villain. Well, it sets up these characters, this group of Jewish American soldiers, as the protagonists. They're on a mission of revenge against the Nazis. Clear good guys on paper.
Okay, yeah. Seems straightforward enough.
But then it shows them adopting methods, adopting a mindset that's disturbingly close to their enemy, the very people they're fighting.
Ah, okay. So it's not just righteous justice.
Not at all. It becomes about vengeance, about cruelty, mirroring cruelty. It holds up a mirror, asking, how different are they, really, when they embrace brutality?
Can you give some examples of that blurring?
Sure. I mean, think about the leader's speech. He explicitly talks about the need for cruelty, for being terrifying. That's not typical hero talk.
No, definitely not.
Their actual mission objective involves scalping Nazis, taking trophies. That's pretty visceral and historically loaded.
Yeah, very.
Then you have the Bear Jew character. His weapon of choice is a baseball bat. The way he kills is drawn out, performative, brutal,
Unforgettable scene.
and maybe the most disturbing. The forced carving of swastikas into the foreheads of surviving Nazis.
Right, yeah.
And this violence, remember, is carried out by the characters you're initially positioned to support. And often, as viewers, people do accept it, or even cheer it on in the moment.
Which forces you, the viewer, to kind of stop and think, wait, why am I okay with this? It makes you confront your own tolerance for cruelty, depending entirely on who's doing it.
Exactly. And this leads to, I think, one of the film's most powerful and maybe uncomfortable points.
Yeah.
It draws a direct parallel.
A parallel between what?
Between us, the audience watching this film, and finding entertainment, maybe even catharsis, in this heroic violence.
Okay.
And the Nazi audience within the film itself were shown watching their own propaganda movie.
Yeah.
A movie also filled with stylized violence and nationalistic triumph.
Ah, I see where you're going.
Both audiences are shown finding amusement, maybe satisfaction, in bloodshed presented through a certain lens. It suggests that being manipulated, accepting violence when it's framed as righteous or patriotic, that's not exclusive to the bad guys of history. Anyone can be susceptible.
Wow. That's a heavy point. It really collapses that distance you might feel from the other side.
It implies that the mechanisms of propaganda, of finding entertainment in violence, work on a fundamental human level, regardless of the specific ideology.
And the film digs even deeper, connecting it back to American history too, right? It's not just about Nazis and WWII.
Absolutely. There are details about the main characters, particularly the leader, Aldo Rain, that seem deliberately chosen to evoke darker aspects of American history.
Like what?
Well, his prominent unexplained neck scar, Some read it as evoking images of lynching from America's past.
Okay.
His nickname, the Apache, and his unit's practice of scalping. That directly references the brutal history between settlers and Native Americans, where scalps were sometimes taken for bounty.
So it's drawing these really unsettling analogies.
Yes. It suggests that the kind of brutality depicted isn't some foreign evil, but something with echoes in America's own history of racial violence and conquest. It challenges that clean, heroic American self-image by pointing out its own historical capacity for similar acts.
It implies the darkness isn't just over there with the enemy.
Precisely. It complicates the idea of a purely righteous American cause by subtly weaving in these historical threads.
So, wrapping this up, what does it all mean? What's the takeaway?
Well, it's clearly a controversial film. It's a bold, maybe even outrageous rewriting of history. Yeah. But it seems to work on these multiple layers.
Right. It's not just one thing.
On one hand, yeah, it functions as this cathartic revenge fantasy. There's a definite satisfaction in seeing the Nazis get their comeuppance in such an over-the-top way. Wish fulfillment.
Sure, you feel that when watching it.
But at the same time, it's constantly poking you, questioning your reactions, questioning heroism, questioning justice, questioning why you enjoy the violence you're seeing. It critiques any simple romantic view of war or history.
So this deep dive really shows it's much more than just a cool, stylish war movie. It's trying to be a mirror.
I think that's a great way to put it. A mirror held up to the audience, reflecting back our own willingness, maybe, to justify brutality if it's done by the heroes.
It pushes back against those comfortable black and white versions of history, makes us look at the uncomfortable ways vengeance can make the oppressed start to resemble the oppressor.
That cycle of violence.
Which leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? If we find ourselves entertained, maybe even satisfied, by extreme violence on screen when it's the quote-unquote good guys doing it, what does that say about our own ability, maybe our society's ability, to overlook or justify things in the real world, depending entirely on who is doing them and why we think they're doing it?
That's the lingering discomfort, isn't it? How easily perspective can shift our judgment. It's definitely something to think about long after the credits roll.